Okay, this is an update on a rebuild of the bottom bracket on this Shogun Sport 1988. And I had reassembled the bottom bracket, and what I found was the axle was too loose. I could not get the adjustable cup in tight enough. And once the axle is in, you can only apply so much torque on the adjustable cup because you don't have access to flats. You just have to get a tool that you can place in there. Now, I wasn't quite sure exactly what the problem was, why I couldn't get it in further, but I'm going to guess that the threads, for whatever reason, are not perfect. You can see they seem to be wavering right there. Okay, and so that in conjunction with the threads on the inside, when it gets to a certain depth, it starts to bind up. So that in conjunction with corrosion, originally there was quite a bit of corrosion inside this. So what I did do was I took the axle out and then I just started working this in deeper and deeper. Every time I put it in, I would take this brush, which is like kind of like brass. I would kind of ream out the threads to try to remove any rust particles. I'm not going to do it now because I've already greased it, ready for another trial with insertion with the axle. And I cleaned out the threads here with a pin and also with the brush, just to see if there wasn't any little particles that might have been in there. But to me, it seems more that the threads seem to be distorted in a certain section. If that was by corrosion or whatever, I don't know. And now I'm just going to try reassembling it. At the same time, I switched from the 9 bearing retainer, which was what it was originally in here, to 11 loose ball bearings. Okay, this is based on advice from Sheldon Brown website. First of all, you want to use new bearings when possible. The old bearings, aside from being possibly having a defect at some spot, they might possibly be worn in such a way as to actually be smaller than the new bearing. I don't know if that's really true or not, but plus putting 11 in instead of 9 with the cage possibly might make a tighter bearing. I don't really know if that's true either, but it can't hurt. And the axle was it was too wobbly. Okay, mostly I need to get the adjustable cup in deeper. But I think the switch to the new ball bearings is certainly an improvement, if nothing else. It should ride smoother with 11 than with 9 in a retainer. The retainer apparently is just for assembly, to make it easier to assemble. So I think that is the right thing to do. I did have the ball bearing, so that's basically why I did it. I had inherited a 1/4-inch ball bearing collection. I'll use pause, and I will just kind of reassemble it and see how badly it wobbles when it's finally put back together here. Okay, I've just inserted the axle. The axle is slightly longer on the drive side, so yeah, just be careful to put it in the right direction. Next, I'm going to put in the plastic shield, which covers the down tube and the other tubes, front tube, from getting water that might get in. This did have a problem with water, so I'm going to get that in there. I keep everything covered with plastic until it's ready to go in, simply because pollen. There's a lot of pollen in the air now. Okay, I put the plastic shield in there. I just kind of stuffed it in. It seems to be okay. I think the adjustable cup, when it goes in, we'll just push it as far down as it needs to go. I tried, pushing it down evenly with my finger, and I think it's in the right spot. So Next, I'm going to take the adjustable cup that already has the bearings packed in it, and I'll thread that on here. Okay, it's going in fine. I'll only know for sure after I really tighten it to see if I can get it, snug. And that will require both hands, so I'm going to have to use pause. Well, it seems to have worked. Now I have it with no measurable end play, and I have the adjustable cup where I still have range of movement. I could tighten it a little bit more or less as needed to get the correct amount of play. So that is great. Now I should say, in tightening this particular style of cup, I needed to find some, that is, when I was trying to ream out the threads with the cup itself, I needed to find some way of driving it. And I had a couple of techniques. One was the bar stock of these two angle irons, when they were pushed together, made a pretty good match to that. So I could use this as a tool. That was one way. And another way, which was actually the best way, was a way I've already mentioned, which was I happen to have this piece of stock, which is similar, not quite as good of a fit as those angle brackets, but the issue is this was all a single piece and it had a hole that I could use with a screwdriver, so I could actually put both hands pushing down on this and then use both hands to turn this, and that's what actually gave me the most force on this, and I was able to get that cup in deeper than I certainly could with any other method. And now that I have cleaned out the threads, I was able to do it even with the axle in by using this just using this pair of pliers, which is also, none of this is an approved tool. I couldn't get an approved tool for this. As I mentioned before, this tool is fine if it's going in smoothly, but it's not really good for putting a lot of force on it. I didn't want to snap off those or round out those little pegs. Okay, I wanted something bigger with a better fit. I'm sure there's a tool here that's got a rectangular slot. Okay, anyway, so this bottom bracket is in nice and snug. I simply have to add the retaining ring and follow the technique there. This is kind of like trial and error. The retaining ring, when you tighten it, is going to adjust the tightness. Either could make it a little bit looser or a little bit tighter. So you just have to play with it until you get something which is acceptable. But this is, I can tell, is really nice. So that's good. Thanks. That's all.